Yeah, I know. That's why I was like,
There you go.
yeah, I was like, maybe narrative.
So which one is as a host? You can let people in, but I thought
What's going on with you?
This. Once we start, we can touch it.
right.
The best person to talk to, honestly,
Turn the start video
would probably be Alex.
Okay.
And then we
Has been around.
Right.
You just
Oh, and then I could just host
Yeah.
or allow,
you just let people.
right?
Yeah, I think,
Or
The three of us
not
can
let people.
absolutely sit down.
No.
yeah, I was like, because we have a couple of things on our strategic
Cars.
vision. One was expanding access to medical
That's what I said. Let people in
services. And I'm like,
for the
hey,
audit.
if it's not Eureka, but it's
Yeah.
close by, it's
She'll
still,
make it.
so.
She's too tired, bro. She'll be here.
Can you call Joe and make sure he can attend? That he's not in here.
Yeah, I haven't heard.
Share screen so bad.
Who do I ask to take, well, Aaron, because I do it.
Are you expecting him to be zoomed? Right. Okay. Are you expecting him to be in his sweatpants?
I don't know what I did all day long. I can't tell you.
Yes, beautifully. That's the great part. Every day. Hi,
Hey, Miss Jones, how are you?
I'm good.
Hello.
Thanks, Laura. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, guys. So we have, oh,
No, thank you.
Go by our home.
We've been waiting for 5:30.
I think you guys have your name tag switched or something.
Am I?
Well, you're not.
I am Nancy. And this is not Autumn.
It's true. Is it Hillary Schwartz?
That's me.
Okay.
And I asked you to spell your name. It is right there. I didn't even look at that. So I just said it. Right. Great. Thank you. Perfect. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here you go. Use that. Your name is right now. Yeah.
Oh.
On yet, so if he was not, we would have to push that item to. But he's here.
I'm good at stalling, too. We got a couple of minutes, so. Good job, show up. Try that again.
All right, it's 5:30. I'm going to go ahead and call the Thursday, October 12th meeting of the HWMA in session. I'll start by taking roll. Meredith Matthews, I'm here. Vice Chair Jones.
Here.
Director Castellano is absent, and we have her backup, Renee.
Here.
All right, Director Katie. Here. Director Madrone is absent, and Director Wilson. All right. All right, we're going to start with the consent calendar. So all matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the HWMA board and will be enacted upon in one motion. Unless a specific request for review is made by the board member or a member of the public, the consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless pulled for discussion. So we have A, approve minutes from the September 14th, 2023 HWMA Board of Directors special meeting. Approve request for proposal for Cummings Road landfill leachate transportation disposal services, and C, approve resolution 2024-02, resolution of the Humboldt Waste Management Authority authorizing the authority to enter into an agreement with Umpqua Bank Commercial Credit Card Program. Do I have any directors that want to pull any items off the consent calendar? All right, good motion.
I would make a motion. Sorry. I would make a motion that we accept the consent calendar as delivered.
I second that motion.
All right, we have Vice Chair Jones that made a motion and Director Katie that second. Next up is oral and written communication.
Point of order, we need a
Oh,
vote.
sorry. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Did you? All right. Okay.
I'm so used to it this way. I'm sitting
Oh,
up
that's
here
right.
and you sit here, sorry.
That's all right. All right.
Just for the record, I note that there are no members of the public who don't
Okay. For the consent calendar? Okay, I apologize. Any members of the public wish to pull anything from the consent calendar? All right. All right. Now we are on to oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the board or to submit written communication concerning matters not on this agenda. Any members of the public wish to? Anybody on Zoom? All right, I'll close oral and written communication. All right, next we have number 4, receive presentation outlining independent auditor's report for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Director Keller-Heckman, can we get a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So just as a brief overview, the annual audit of the authority's financial statements is generally a tool which the board and staff can use to measure the fiscal health of the responsibility of the authority. Generally, you receive these in February or March of this fiscal year, but due to some turnover at key management positions and some scheduling issues with the JJCPA financial firm, you were receiving this quite a bit later than usual. This has, for the record, already been submitted to the state controller because that deadline was a couple months ago. So that has actually already been pre-submitted, and you are getting an overview from Joseph Arch, one of the principals at JJCPA, and I believe he is on Zoom, and we will pass it over to him.
Thank you, Eric. So as Eric said, usually I'm usually presenting the June 30, 23 at an October meeting. So this particular audit did have one finding, primarily because of the change in staff and the delay in the audit. Like Eric said, it didn't prevent us from transmitting it to the state to make sure that the authority remained in conformity with the government code for submitting it prior to June 30th. Since the report was complete and all of our work was completed. So given that you've replaced the positions at the director level and the finance level, you probably won't see that finding continuing into the next audit. And I think we have our fieldwork scheduled for for June 30, 23 next week. So, so we'll be working with Hillary on that one. Just some overview of the financial statements. This report does not include a management discussion analysis, which is usually what I like to talk about in an audit. Kind of gives the changes from year to year and that kind of thing. Just briefly, you added to your net position about $400,000 on a year-to-year basis. Part of that includes the estimated change for the closure of the landfill. So there's a valuation adjustment that takes place every year. And this year it was about 180,000. In the prior years, it was about, 390,000. So, that's in general, just kind of an overview. I'm also here for questions. The other thing I wanted to point out on the cash flow statement on page 7, you added to your cash balances, which indicates that your operating activities are still, you're covering your expenses with the cash flow coming from your revenues. So the receipts are higher than your expenses for both employee costs and supplier costs. So, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. If anybody has any questions, I'm here for questions.
All right, I'll open it up to the board. Does anybody have any questions? I'll start. Maybe somebody will want to jump in. So it looked like there was only one finding, so congratulations. So this is the 21-22 audit. So this is when Jill was still the director, correct? So, and I think the one finding was about the finance director. So now is there kind of something in place for, God forbid, anything should happen? Do we have like a plan B if we're ever find ourselves without a finance director again?
Yeah, I think Director Heacock and I went through a little bit of tumultuation in that time period. But we went through a process that allowed us to find an out of authority controller. So that would kind of be the process that we would go through, is we would find another individual that we could bring in the interim. We also used Jamie Corsetti. She's a CPA that we've utilized for audit preparation as well. So she has offered in the future if we need her services as well. So we do have kind of a backup plan should there be any turnover or issues at the top. And that also includes with the executive director as well.
How long have we been using these auditors? Are they like pretty familiar with the JPA?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think Joe could probably tell you, but I want to say it's close to 10 years, I want to believe.
Don't you have to change every so many years, counsel? I mean,
So we are very close to that. We will most likely be looking at an RFP for audit services come in the future. But one of the rules is you don't have to, there's a certain amount of time where you have to change the firm, and then there's a certain amount of time where you have to change the auditor itself in that firm. So generally, Joe would not be presenting here tonight because he did not complete this audit itself. Fortune was our auditor and has been for the past 2 years as well. He had a personal issue that he couldn't make it tonight. So Joe stepped in at the last minute.
yeah, no worries. I mean, I think that we're more interested in seeing next year's audit and also the budget, so we can ask some questions about that. But for right now, it looks like a really clean audit. So anybody else have any questions?
I will jump in. You mentioned the Cummings landfill, and it looks like I've seen a decrease, is from what I could see in the figures. Will that continue to decrease as we proceed onward into the next year?
So that's valued by an external firm that does exclusive landfill closure and post-closure cost reports. So there's, I believe you have that report done every 3 years. So so it may, typically it does decrease over time because it doesn't cost as much to maintain the site as it gets older. So, but that's that. I mean, I can't speak to that because I don't do the valuation. So it would be the you can actually look at the valuation report, and it usually shows a decreasing amount over time. So
Should I just butt in really quickly and tell Director Madrone, no, you're not needed for a quorum. So go ahead. You're good. Thanks.
To dovetail off of what Mr. Arch said, the evaluation for the landfill has to be done with CalRecycle every 5 years. So we have our firm over in Reading. They work with CalRecycle to develop a 5-year renewal for the liability with maintaining the landfill. The reduction you'll see, now, we can't guarantee that there will always be a reduction, but in the past 5 to 10 years, you'll continue to see a reduction because the amount of time that we're liable for maintaining the landfill also is reduced. So normally when you close a landfill, you're responsible for 30 years of post-closure maintenance. We are at in this one, I think it's 25. So 2022, 23 fiscal year, you'll see 24 years left. 2023, 24, you'll see 23 years left. So eventually the liability continues to decrease with how long you have to continually maintain the landfill.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? I can open it up to the public. Does anybody in the public have any questions about the audit? No? Anybody online? All right, I'll bring it back to the directors. All right, looks like we're pretty good. Director Keller-Heckman, what do you need from us? Just a motion to accept?
Yeah, you can motion to receive the presentation outlining independent auditor's report for fiscal year 21-22 to be filed with authority archives, state controller, and required financial institutions. So now you can just say staff's recommendation.
Does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept staff's presentation.
All right, we have a Director Wilson making that motion and Director Katie second it. Director Wilson, I think you have to make sure to turn your microphone on when you're talking or else it's not recorded, but we're good. All right. So next up is board member reports.
Any further discussion
Oh.
and then vote?
Thanks. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is everybody in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No? All right. So the motion passes. And now we are on to board member reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
Oh, I just wanted to report that Blue Lake had another successful Green Waste Day last Saturday, October 7th. We did have to compete with the Medieval Festival going on, which was interesting because there was very little parking in the town and traffic was pretty heavy considering how it usually is. But it was a successful Green Waste, and we will continue to have these every other month.
Anybody else? All right. We'll move on to the executive director's report. Director Keller-Heckman, anything to report?
Not at this time.
All right. I guess we will then move into closed session. So we have a closed session conference with legal counsel regarding existing or anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2.
I make a motion that we go into closed session per government code.
This board doesn't usually make motions to go into closed session. I know that Blue Lake City Council does that, but that yeah, it's just a matter of procedure. That's all.
I'll retract my motion in that case.
Are we going to stay in here or are we going to go in that yeah, all right.